So, for a building to support a slate roof, are there any specific, structural requirements that the building needs to have in order to support like the weight of that material?
Absolutely. So slate is a very heavy material. Standard slates, quarter to 3/8 inch slate is generally about 850 pounds per square. That's a 10 by 10 area or 100 square feet. And then if you get, say, like a denser stone, like a Del Castillo or Buckingham, something like that, that goes up to about 950 or 1,000 pounds per square. And then
Wow.
also, if you go with thick slates, we put on a roof in Missouri a couple years ago. Um, it required 12 semi tractor trailer loads of slate because the slate was half to 3/4 inch thick, and it was also a very large roof. But if you think about the weight of that, that's going to be somewhere around, gosh, 2,500 or even 3,000 pounds a square. So it's really got to be built to withstand not just the slate, but also if you're in a cold weather climate, all the snow that's going to build up on that roof. So in building a new house for a slate roof, you've got to take all that into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. That really slides beautifully into the next question, which is, I mean, compared to other roofing materials, like, I mean, just the weight alone, slate differs.
Yeah.
Um, but you've touched on it here and there, but how does the installation process differ for slate from, these other materials like asphalt, metal, what have you?
Well, so asphalt, you just basically run some lines and you have an air gun and you just shoot them down as fast as you can.
Hmm.
Um, Metal, it kind of depends on what kind of a metal roof you're talking about, but a lot of what gets put on in the US here, you basically need a screw gun. It's either exposed nails or, you've got the cleats where you just screw one in, one right after another, and just snap them on, and it's
Hmm.
very fast. I mean, it's more of a production cycle
Yeah.
than it is like a long lasting kind of thing. Whereas with slate, um, it takes a little bit to install it correctly. You've got to nail it just perfect. You don't have a lot of tolerance. Like I said, you over nail it just a little and you've got hairline cracks. You undernail it, and the slate above it rocks on it. And so every single windstorm, every single hailstorm, you get broken slates. I remember inspecting a roof in Amarillo, and it was less than a year old. And this is a big roof now, but it had over 300 missing slates. And the general contractor was trying to tell me that, well, that's pretty standard because by my calculator, he's like, it's only like 3% of the roof, and it's not that big of a deal because I was told that a slate roof sheds like 5 to 10% a year. I said, so it's natural for 300 slates to fall out. I'm like, that's insane. I'm like, think about this. I said, you've got these big, sharp pieces of slate that are flying off your roof every year.
Yikes.
They could hit your car, they could hit your kids. I was just like, what kind of. He goes, well, how many should fall out? I said, zero. I said, yeah, I mean, you might have one or two or something, as an installer, you tap it and you can usually hear that ring or that thud and know if it's cracked or not. But there's forklifts driving around, whatever. Maybe you miss one or two, and one or two gets installed, and after a year, a couple fall out. That could happen, but to have that many fall out after a year is crazy. And
Yeah.
for people to say that that's normal if you're a gorilla. If you're a shingle roofer and you're just slamming those slates down as fast as possible. But in general, yeah, you should have 0 or less than 5, put it that way. You shouldn't have too many.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing, the tolerance for the install isn't very high.
If your roof needs answers, subscribe now to the Ask a Roofer podcast. We've got your questions covered, one episode at a time. Go to AskARoofer.com to submit your questions and learn more. Stay tuned and keep those questions coming.